So, your e-commerce brand is going global. That's amazing news, seriously. But as you start pushing into these huge markets like the UK and the EU, you're going to run into some compliance hurdles that can literally stop your business in its tracks. Today, we're going to talk about what happens when the regulators actually come knocking, and more importantly, how you can be ready for it. I want you to just picture this for a second. Your product is live, sales are absolutely climbing, and your big international expansion, it's a huge success. But then, you get that one notification. You know the one. There's a problem with your product in a new market. So what do? It's the kind of scenario that keeps sellers up at night, right? Well, we're going to walk through that exact situation right now.
Understanding what happens after you launch is every bit as important as the launch itself. So let's just break down what a real compliance crisis looks like, who the key players are, and how you can actually navigate your way through it.
Okay, here's something you've got to remember. Getting your product listed on a marketplace isn't the finish line, not even close. It's really just the starting gun for ongoing compliance. Because when an issue pops up, and it's not a matter of if, but when, you absolutely need someone on the ground representing your brand ready to handle it. So, who are these authorities you might be hearing from? Well, let's meet the official compliance watchdogs for the UK and the EU. You can think of them as the gatekeepers, the ones making sure every single product being sold is safe and follows all the local rules. In the UK, you've got a group called Trading Standards. And across the EU, you have what are called market surveillance authorities. In a nutshell, their jobs are basically the same: protect consumers by making sure every product is fully compliant. They're kind of like the referees of the entire marketplace.
Now, here's where it gets really official. These authorities, they're not just going to send an email to a generic customer service address. No way. They have a very formal process. They contact the officially appointed responsible person, and this is a legally required representative whose details are right there on your product label. This person is your single official point of contact.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's dive into two recent case studies. This is where the rubber meets the road, and you can see just how quickly things can get serious. All right, our first story is all about a health food supplement. Now, this is a massive market, but it's also, as you can imagine, super regulated. And this particular product ran into a problem that started in just one country and then quickly jumped across borders. Here's how it all went down. First, the authorities over in Austria flagged the product. They suspected it had something called a novel food ingredient. So what did they do? They alerted their counterparts in the UK, Trading Standards. And then, and this is the crazy part, inspectors physically showed up at the responsible person's registered address and demanded the full, complete compliance documentation for that product, right then and there. Now, before we see how that story ends, let's just pause for a second. What on earth is a novel food ingredient? Well, in the EU, it's pretty much any food that wasn't widely eaten by people before May of 1997. It means the ingredient is considered new, and because of that, it often needs special approval before you can legally sell it. Okay, our second case involves a consumer electronics product. This is a perfect example of how these compliance issues aren't just limited to one category, like food. They can happen to any seller in any niche. The problem here was something as simple as incorrect labeling, but the consequences, they were immediate. The product got flagged and bam, just like that, it was pulled from the marketplace. All revenue from that listing just stopped. The seller then had to scramble to find an expert partner to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it. Those situations sound pretty stressful, don't they? But here's the good news. A compliance issue doesn't have to be a total catastrophe. With the right expertise, there is a clear path to getting the problem sorted and getting your products back on sale. So let's go back to that food supplement case. Because the responsible person had all the documentation ready to go, they were able to hand it over to the inspectors immediately. Their compliance team jumped on it, investigated, and proved that the specific form of the ingredient they were using was perfectly legal. It was not a novel food. The authorities accepted the evidence, and the product was cleared for sale. Crisis averted. And what about that electrical product? Well, the compliance partner totally took charge. They communicated directly with Trading Standards, figured out the root cause of the labeling mistake, and gave the client a clear, simple action plan. They managed the entire rework process, relabeling the stock, updating the docs, getting it all approved, and just like that, the product went back on sale. So as you can see, there's a pretty clear playbook for solving these problems. It all starts with a root cause analysis to really understand why the problem happened in the first place. Then you create a corrective action plan. You execute that plan, which might mean reworking products or just updating documents. And finally, you submit all the evidence to the authorities to get that green light. It's a methodical process, and it works.
Okay, let's zoom out for a moment. Why does any of this really matter for your business? Well, because trying to navigate this incredibly complex world all on your own is, frankly, super risky. Having a partner who gets the regulations and already has relationships with the regulators is what lets you expand with confidence.
I saw this quote that really just nails it. Without the right support, compliance issues can lead to product removals, delayed sales, costly rework, or even reputational damage. Every single one of those is a direct hit to your bottom line and, of course, your brand's reputation.
Yeah, the stakes here are really high. We're not just talking about a slap on the wrist. You're facing things like costly product removals, major delays in sales, super expensive rework of your inventory, and damage to your brand's reputation that can be incredibly hard to come back from.
But the alternative to all that stress is just peace of mind. A true compliance partner does so much more than check a few boxes at the beginning. They basically act as your shield, handling these complex issues quickly and professionally so that you can get back to focusing on what you do best, growing your business. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. You know your brand is ready to take on the world. The real question is, have you built the compliant foundation you need to protect that growth every single step of the way?